Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. So following on from the previous video where I showed you how to tie these lead underbodies for shrimp style, garamous style flies, we're going to tie my pink shrimp. So this is my go-to pink shrimp. Really easy to tie, so let's get right into it. And in the vise we've got a size 12 grab pupa by Partridge. So first thing I'm going to do is come in with some UTC. This is the UTC Shell Pink. And I'm just going to tie that in just in the middle of the fly and cut a butt end away. So the next thing I'm going to come in with is this is Hot Orange UTC in Brassie. So I'm going to flatten my thread just to help me tie it in a little bit easier, and I'm tying this on right in the bottom of the fly. So we're going to go right into the bend of the hook, and then I'm going to come back up just to make sure it's fully secured. And then to help me with the next stage, I'm just going to reposition my fly. So then the next material I'm coming in with is some shellback, and this is colour 219. So it's like a flashy shellback. This is actually the old stuff, so it's a lot more supple than the new stuff. The new stuff's quite brittle and quite a bit harder to work with actually. So yeah, but still similar colour. So I've cut a little V out of this just to give me a point to tie in, which is just folded back on me. So just get that back out. So I'll counter spin my thread just to help me tie it in. I'm tying it in right on the back, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a slight stretch as I tie down and tie it right in to that bend, trying not to twist it all over, just so it's a neater first pull over. So it needs to come a little bit down there and lock all that in. Yeah, it's happy with that. So next thing I'm going to do is just dub the body of the fly. So this is a UVI stub in colour 19. So loosely dubbing this on because I want to be able to pull some of these fibres out once the fly's tied. So just loosely dubbing a noodle on. Right, so just going to start dubbing the fly. So you think it's a bit thick, you can give it a pull and a twist and that'll thin it out a little bit for you. I'm just coming right up the hook. So we get to this point, I'm just going to reposition it just to make my life a little bit easier. I'm going to come back one turn and just give this a bit of a pull. So, and then I'm going to come right down to that eye. As I said on the last fly, I see a lot of people leaving a bit of space. I think it really does make for a neater fly if you dub right down to behind the eye. So I still want to maintain this sort of, shrimp-like profile. And I'll pull those loose fibres back, put a turn in, and then a half hitch. So I've got some fly tying wax here, and I just like to use this. It just keeps things locked in a little bit better. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that on, and that's actually a wax that I've made myself. So it's a lot more tacky than some of the shop bought stuff, so you don't need to keep rubbing it on. So I'm just going to make sure the shellback's not folded over. It does have a habit sometimes of folding over. So I'm just going to take all that out, make sure it's not. That's that ready. So then I'm going to pull it over the back of the fly. And as I'm pulling it, I'm giving it a stretch, but I like to kind of push it across the body just so it's kind of tight against the dubbing. And I'm going to counter spin my thread just to help it make it easier when I come over the top of the shell back. To move that fibre out of the way so we don't tie that in. So I'm going to do a slightly loose turn, so just make sure I've got a nice head. Pull it tight, and then 2 or 3 locking turns behind. Pull the shrimp back forward, and a couple of turns in front, and then again put in a half hitch. So I'm going to add some more wax, and this really helps when you're tying in something like the wire rib. It just stops when you're actually helicoptering it out. It just stops it moving around. So I'm just going to see how level my shell back is. So I've got equal amounts either side. And this does have a habit of, as you're doing these counter ribs, to pull over. So it's just a case of doing even open turns over this shell back. If any fibres get in the way, you can kind of just push them out the way with your left hand, like that. And then I'm coming right to this head. So I'm going to do a few wraps back, come underneath my wire, turn over, and a couple of turns tight into it, and then the same again, just to make sure that's fully locked in. And then I'm going to put in another whip finish. And then we can helicopter out, and you see that wire doesn't move now that we've got that wax on at all. So I'm going to clockwise spin my thread. I'm going to apply a little bit more wax. And I'm just going to neaten this head up now. I'm quite happy with that. So a tiny little bit more wax here, and I'm going to just whip finish. And then an extra one, like so. Pull that tight, make sure it's all locked in, and trim a thread away. Right, so the next thing we need to do is just, we're going to put a black head on this. So I'm just taking a black marker. This is a Cure colour. These are really good markers. They've got 2 thicknesses. Got a thick side and a thin side. So we're going to use the thin side today. And I'm just going to put some marker on this head, but then I'm going to actually come down over the wire and onto that shell back as well. So I don't want too much or too longer sort of black head. And I really like the way these look once they're UV'd. So the next thing I'm going to do then is come in with some Raid Zap UV resin. This is the thin. Now you need to be quite careful when you're doing this and quite quick because it is runny. So I'm going to put some on this head, just a little bit, not too much. And I can turn my fly upside down and move that around. I'm going to put a little bit more on the back just to coat it. And then it's just a case of working this now with a bodkin. So I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to work this around, and I do this upside down because if I turn it the other way and leave it on for too long, it'll just all run down onto the dubbing. And we don't want that to happen. So, happy with that. I'm going to give it a quick cure, upside down. We can turn the fly back to the right way so you can see what I'm doing. Just give it a really good cure. Happy with that. And then last but not least is just a case of brushing this dubbing out just to create the legs. So turn it round and do the opposite side. And the great thing with that wax as well, because it doesn't pull out, sometimes you can have a habit of brushing your shrimps out. You can knock your head or your whip finish and push them out. Well, this wax really helps stop that. So I'm going to just pull all those fibres down and just give it a bit of a haircut just to neaten it up. That should do it. So there's the completed fly. Now I would tie these, this is a 14, I would tie these in a 12 as well. Sorry, this is a 12, apologies. I would tie them in 10s and 12s and maybe some 14s, but I don't really use them that often. So yeah, it's definitely one you want to get tied up, get it in your box, and tight lines. I'll see you on the next one.